In the heart of the sun-scorched Arizona desert, where the horizon stretched endlessly and the wind whispered secrets of ancient times, lived a poor rancher named Eli Tanner. His small, weathered ranch sat on the edge of Apache tribal lands, a place where the modern world and sacred traditions collided. Eli was a solitary man, his hands calloused from years of tending to a meager herd of cattle, his heart heavy from a life of struggle. The land was unkind, the rains scarce, and his debts piled higher than the red rock mesas that loomed in the distance. But Eli's life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. Two Apache sisters, known across the reservation for their towering presence and fierce spirits, had been watching him. They were called Nellie and Tala, daughters of a revered tribal elder, standing over 6 feet tall with eyes that seemed to pierce through time itself. Their long, dark hair flowed like the rivers their ancestors once fished, and their voices carried the weight of generations. The sisters had grown curious about Eli, not because of his poverty, but because of the quiet respect he showed for their land. He never crossed boundaries, never hunted on sacred grounds, and always left offerings of sage at the edge of his property, a gesture that did not go unnoticed. One fateful evening, as the sky burned orange and purple, Nellie and Tala appeared at Eli's doorstep, their silhouettes casting long shadows across his porch. They spoke in unison, their words both a command and an invitation. "Come with us to the tribal council. We have chosen you." Eli, stunned, could only nod, unaware that this moment would unravel the threads of his ordinary life and weave them into a tapestry of destiny. 2. The journey to the tribal council was no simple trek. Eli followed the sisters through winding desert trails, where cacti stood like silent sentinels and the stars above seemed to pulse with purpose. Nellie walked with a grace that belied her size, her moccasins barely stirring the dust, while Tala's strides were deliberate, as if she were measuring the earth itself. Eli, clutching his worn hat, felt small beside them, his boots scuffing against the rocky path. The sisters spoke little, but their presence was a conversation in itself, filled with unspoken histories. They led him past ancient petroglyphs etched onto cliffs, symbols of their people's resilience, and through a canyon where the wind howled like a mourning spirit. Eli's mind raced with questions, but fear and awe kept them locked in his throat. Why him? What had he done to earn the attention of these formidable women? The tribal council, he knew, was a sacred gathering, reserved for matters of great importance, disputes over land, ceremonies for the seasons, or judgments that could alter lives. As they approached the council grounds, a circle of stones glowing faintly under the moonlight, Eli's heart pounded. The air was thick with the scent of burning cedar, and the low hum of chanting greeted them. The council members, elders with faces carved by time, sat in a semicircle, their eyes fixed on Eli as if they could see his very soul. Nellie stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed the council. "This man, Eli Tanner, walks slightly on our land. We bring him here to answer for his place among us." Tala's gaze met Eli's, and for a moment, he felt as though she saw not just him, but the struggles of his ancestors, the weight of his choices. 3. The council fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the elders, who listened intently as Nellie and Tala spoke. Eli stood at the edge of the circle, his worn boots sinking slightly into the sandy earth, feeling like an outsider in a world that was not his own. The sisters' words were measured, their voices weaving a story that surprised him. They spoke of his respect for the land, his offerings of sage, and the way he never turned his cattle onto sacred grounds, even when his own pastures withered. "He is not one of us," Nellie said, "but he honors what is ours." Tala added, "His heart is poor in wealth but rich in understanding." The elders murmured among themselves, their faces unreadable. Eli felt a flash of heat, not from the fire but from the weight of their scrutiny. He was no hero, just a man trying to survive. Yet the sisters saw something in him that he could not see in himself. The head elder, a woman with silver hair braided tightly against her scalp, raised a hand for silence. She asked Eli to speak, to explain why he lived so close to their lands, why he never crossed their boundaries. His voice trembled as he spoke of his father, who had taught him to respect the earth, and of his mother, who had Apache blood but never spoke of it. The elders listened, their eyes narrowing at the mention of his heritage. Nellie and Tala exchanged a glance, as if they had known this secret all along. The council deliberated through the night, their voices rising and falling like the desert wind. As dawn broke, the head elder stood, her presence commanding. "Eli Tanner," she said, "you are invited to join us, not as an outsider, but as one who may learn our ways." The sister's choice had opened a door, one that could lead to salvation or sacrifice. For Eli's mind spun as he processed the elder's words. Join them. He was a rancher, a man of dust and debt, not a member of their tribe. Yet the sister's choice to bring him here was no accident. Nellie and Tala stood like twin pillars, their eyes urging him to accept the invitation. The council dispersed, leaving Eli alone with the sisters under the fading stars. They explained that their people faced a crisis. A developer sought to claim a portion of their land for a resort, a project that would desecrate sacred sites. The tribe needed allies, outsiders who could bridge worlds, and the sisters believed Eli was that bridge. His respect for their land, his distant Apache heritage, made him a candidate to learn their ways and advocate for their cause. Eli hesitated. His ranch was failing, his debts crushing, and now he was being asked to step into a world he barely understood. But Nellie's words struck deep. "You've lived on the edge of our world, Eli. Now step into it." Tala handed him a small pouch of sage and cornmeal, a symbol of trust. Over the following weeks, Eli began visiting the reservation, guided by the sisters. They taught him their language, their songs, and the stories of their ancestors. He learned of the sacred springs that the developers' plans would destroy, and his heart ached at the thought. The sisters were patient but firm, pushing him to see beyond his own struggles. Nellie showed him how to weave baskets, her large hands deft and precise, while Tala taught him to track animals across the desert, her senses sharp as a hawk's. Eli felt his world expanding, his isolation melting under their guidance. Yet the weight of his choice grew heavier. Helping the tribe could cost him his ranch, his only home. 5. As Eli grew closer to the sisters and their people, the developer's shadow loomed larger. The man, a slick-talking businessman named Carson Reed, had deep pockets and deeper influence. He arrived on the reservation with promises of jobs and prosperity, but his eyes gleamed with greed. The tribe was divided as some saw opportunity in his plans, while others, led by Nellie and Tala, saw only destruction. Eli, caught between worlds, attended community meetings where voices clashed like thunder. Reed's representatives spoke of progress, of hotels and golf courses, while the sisters stood tall, their words painting visions of lost heritage. Eli, still learning, began to speak up, his voice shaky but earnest. He shared stories of his own land, how overgrazing had turned fertile pastures to dust, a warning of what could come. The sisters nodded approvingly, their confidence in him growing. But Reed took notice of Eli, sensing a threat in this unlikely ally. One evening, as Eli returned to his ranch, he found his fence cut, his cattle scattered, a note pinned to his door read, "Stay out of our business." Fear gripped him, but so did resolve. Nellie and Tala arrived the next morning, their faces grim. They helped him round up his cattle, their strength and speed astonishing. Tala's eyes burned as she promised to stand by him. "You're not alone," she said. Nellie added, "This fight is ours together." Eli realized then that the sisters' choice to bring him to the council was not just about him up, it was about uniting their strengths to protect what mattered. The rancher, once alone, now had allies fiercer than any storm. 6. The battle for the land escalated as Reed's company pushed forward, filing permits and rallying local support with promises of wealth. The tribe prepared for a legal fight, gathering evidence of the land's sacred significance. Eli, now a regular at tribal meetings, worked alongside Nellie and Tala to collect oral histories from elders, documenting the spring's role and ceremonies. His ranch became a meeting place, his small kitchen filled with voices planning strategy. The sisters' presence drew curious stares from neighbors, who whispered about the giant Apache woman and the strange rancher they'd chosen. Eli ignored the gossip, focusing on the task. But Reed's tactics grew dirtier. Surveyors trespassed on Eli's land, claiming it was part of their project. When Eli confronted them, they laughed, backed by hired muscle. That night, Nellie and Tala appeared, their silhouettes towering against the moonlit sky. Without a word, they moved toward the intruders, who fled at the sight of the sisters' imposing figures. Eli's gratitude was tempered by worry Reed's influence was spreading, and the tribe's legal funds were dwindling. The sisters proposed a bold plan, a public demonstration at the county courthouse, where the tribe would present their case to the community. Eli, though nervous, agreed to speak, his voice now carrying the weight of the sisters' teachings. The day of the demonstration arrived, with hundreds gathering at tribal members, ranchers, and curious townsfolk. Nellie and Tala stood at the forefront, their presence commanding silence. Eli stepped forward, his words clumsy but honest, telling of the land's beauty and the cost of losing it. The crowd listened, moved by his sincerity and the sisters' unwavering support. 7. The demonstration shifted the tide, but not without cost. Reed's company retaliated, spreading rumors that the tribe was blocking progress out of stubbornness. Eli's ranch faced new pressure as the creditors called in loans, and his water supply was mysteriously cut off. He suspected Reed's hand, but proof was elusive. Nellie and Tala, sensing his despair, brought him to a sacred mesa one dawn. There, they performed a ceremony, burning sage and singing to the rising sun. The ritual grounded Eli, reminding him of the stakes beyond his own survival. The sisters shared their own fears, and Eli spoke of losing their father to illness, Tala of watching their traditions fade. Their vulnerability strengthened Eli's resolve. Together, they devised the final strategy, a petition to the state to protect the land as a cultural heritage site. Eli used his connections among local ranchers, many of whom respected him, to gather signatures. The sisters rallied the tribe, their voices uniting young and old. The petition gained traction, amplified by media coverage of the demonstration, but Reed fought back, hiring lawyers to challenge the petition's validity. The final hearing loomed, a make-or-break moment. Eli, Nellie, and Tala prepared tirelessly, knowing the odds were against them. The night before the hearing, they sat around a fire on Eli's ranch, the sisters' laughter mingling with his quiet hope. They spoke of the future, of a land preserved for generations. Eli realized he no longer saw himself as just rancher. He was part of something larger, bound to the sisters and their cause. 8. The hearing was a battle of words and wills. The courthouse was packed, with Reed's polished lawyers facing off against the tribe's modest legal team, bolstered by Eli's testimony. Nellie and Tala stood at the back, their presence a silent force. Eli spoke of the land's history, his voice steady now, shaped by months of learning from the sisters. He described the springs, the petroglyphs, and the stories that tied the tribe to the earth. The judge, a stern woman with a reputation for fairness, listened intently. Reed's team argued economics, flashing charts of projected revenue, but the tribe's evidence, backed by Eli's petition and the elders' testimonies, painted a different picture, one of irreplaceable heritage. The sisters' choice to bring Eli to the council had set this moment in motion, their faith in him now bearing fruit. After hours of deliberation, the judge ruled, the land would be protected as a cultural heritage site. The courtroom erupted in cheers, with Nellie and Tala embracing Eli, their smiles radiant. Reed left in silence, his plans crumbling. Eli's ranch was saved, too, as the tribe vowed to help him rebuild. The sisters' decision had changed everything, and not just for the land, but for Eli, who found purpose and family in a world he once only touched from the edges. As they walked back to the reservation under a starlit sky, Nellie said, "You were always one of us." Tala added, "And now, we are one with you." Eli smiled, knowing his life, like the land, had been forever transformed.